Hey, Captain Games here. I'm a professional video game tester and I'm a video game project manager. And today, let's talk microtransaction. So I've been working in the game industry for a while now, and I'm a gamer, and I also spoke with a lot of general managers and a lot of CEOs of game studios. So we kind of get an insight on what they think, that's happening in the game industry and these microtransactions and things like that. And also been in those meetings where, we talk about, microtransaction, loot boxes and things like that. So let's just talk about it from the game company's perspective. All right, so let's just imagine you have a business, okay? And you want your business to sell a great product. And this product does not require a lot of money to maintain, or requires a minimum amount to maintain if it's a server or a game or something like that. It requires the least amount of R&D or research to kind of improve the game, and still the sales are still able to climb and things like that. The most ideal scenario is it has high profit margins, things like that, and just sells really well. Well, that'd be great, but that's just not what a game is kind of sometimes, where you have to spend a lot of money and invest in it to start producing it, like for months or even years. And during that time, you don't make any money while you're producing the game, okay? Because, it's not finished and you just can't sell or anything like that. So you're just, spending money on engineering, artists, sound effects, things like that, and you still got to pay bills. So, it's just a big investment and hoping that, this game will sell well after you're done producing it. So after you produce the game, you have to spend money on marketing, and then, let's just say you sell the game, and it usually goes like this. It usually peaks up, you get a lot of sales, and then after a while, it just dies down, and then goes like that, and it goes to zero or something like that. Maybe not zero, maybe a couple less and less. But then pretty much, the initial profit is made during the peak of the marketing, and then slowly, over time, new games come out and things like that. So, unless you make an amazing game and people still love playing it and buying it even years in advance and stuff like that. And then pretty much you take that money and you invest in the next game. And then, and normally you're supposed to have one game already selling, and then while you're restarting to produce the next game. And that's usually how it goes, Or if it's like version 2, you make a Diablo game, then you just make Diablo 2 and you try to spend the least amount of money or something like that to develop Diablo 2 so you can maximize profit, things like that. But the game might come out terrible, Or, and companies just spend, very little effort sometimes to produce version 2, kind of like, you have 1 and then you have 2 and you have 3 and then, the effort, and, spend minimum amount of money developing the game and hoping it will sell well just because, it has a famous name, great IP, EA. Whoops, what was that? Well, nowadays companies kind of make a free-to-play game where they release it and it's not fully built out. And then you slowly just add features over time, and you can still start selling the game or, having microtransactions, whatever, however, you generate revenue, and taking that money and then just, invest in creating DLCs, things like that, and new content, kind of like Fortnite, where, they release chapter 1, chapter 2, things like that. New things to keep the players excited. So, that's usually kind of how it goes now. So mostly, so now it looks like this. You release it, maybe initial bump up, and then goes down. The hype goes down, and then slowly, you have more content. Maybe the game gets more popular, and you grow more in revenue and player base like that. So, kind of looks better than the initial where you sell a game, goes up, goes down, and decreases. That's just what companies kind of see now. And trust me, it takes a lot of money to maintain a very popular game. You got servers, engineers, things like that, just to check on it every day. Nobody complains when the game runs smoothly and everything, but everybody complains when the server's down for a game. And then, that's when in the back end, you don't see it, but a lot of engineers and the network people are like scrambling and like, running around, spending 24 hours trying to fix workload or whatever is broken, and you get a lot of customer complaints and things like that. Overall, you could lower the cost of producing a game, by outsourcing or hiring contract and things like that, or using pre-produced, like items, in Unity gives you free produced like 3D models, things like that. You can use those, but a lot of companies want to produce their own models, so kind of use it for future references, or kind of feel like they own it and they can resell it or redesign it or make it do other stuff in the future. So that's why, it's not really ideal for companies to sometimes use pre-paid or pre-created, 3D assets or 2D assets or whatever, like downloadables, but it's a fine balance that they have to just kind of walk around that, whatever their future plans are for the game. And what a company also wants is a large cash reserve, enough money in the bank for rainy days, or use it to invest in new future games or new products where they could just build it up while their current product sells well. So, in case that first product doesn't do well, they're already invested in new games that, they could release later on after and start selling and doing better. And it's just not the most ideal situation, but that's not what's really happening. A lot of times, companies are, producing a game and then praying that it does well. And then it doesn't do well, then, you gotta lay off people, things like that. It's just horrible. And then, or the company just shuts down, because it just released the game and just didn't do well. And really, the company takes a huge hit and they have to lay off a lot of people because, you sometimes have to hire a lot of people to produce that game. So it makes it feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck. And that's just really not a good feeling. You don't want to sleep at night knowing that if you lose your job or that game just doesn't do well, the whole company shuts down and you have to lay off a lot of people. So you want a huge cash reserve to kind of be able to, invest in new games or still be able to pay the bills and pay your workers and all that stuff. So, a company needs a good product that sells well and also a large cash reserve. And that's usually the best scenario. That's what game CEOs and shareholders of the gaming company are thinking. They want to make as much profit as possible to kind of get that cash reserve. And also looks good on a quarterly basis, pushes up the stock, things like that. So, they pressure companies and game companies to produce, games that have a lot of microtransaction, finding ways to maximize profit at making it really grindy, and using some of them sometimes go so far to use these scummy tactics where, they make it really hard to pay to win and, add a lot of loot boxes and incentives for players to spend money only and not really care about the game quality. And that's what you see nowadays. A lot of these products, or these games at least, you're finding, you're like, why does it feel different from the past? It's because, games are expensive to make and, they're thinking about a company, or it could be, they're looking for, push up the stock prices and stuff. So, the one thing I've been hearing, you hear Diablo Immortal where it costs like $100,000 to like $500,000. I don't know, from some of these people that are saying just to max out your gear, that I just think that's just too extreme. That's when you just make the game not fun anymore, right? Like using all these tactics and stuff, and players, they know, they would know. In my opinion, I think a better range would be $400 to about $1,000 that people usually spend, kind of like to get max gear. Or even better, make it so that without paying to win, people are still able to get max gear and just, grind a little bit, but not too much grind. There's like a balance between that. If you make it too hard, way too hard, then people are definitely going to hate it. But if you make it just enough where it kind of feels like an accomplishment, because you still want the players to feel like they have achieved something, and still make it possible for them to max out the gear just by spending a little bit of time like grinding and training and collecting stuff, things like that. But some games make it so hard that you can't even like get the premium currency unless you actually spend money. So that's just I just don't like that, in my opinion. But hey, you have your opinion, just comment down below and tell me what you think about that. I for sure is one of those people that spend a lot of money on some of the games, opening loot boxes, things like that, and I don't get what I want, and I just keep spending money, and before you know it, you're like, oh shoot, I think I spent $1,000 or something, and I still didn't even get what I want. That just makes me have a very bad feeling, and I just like that. So I wouldn't want, a game to do that, and I wouldn't make a game that kind of does that, but you want to make a little bit so they could people spend a little bit, you get some revenue like that, and, I think that's better. What's even better than that is, kind of making it so that it's only cosmetic only, so that it doesn't affect other people, and, people could spend more money on skins, and, the gameplay isn't affected, like kind of like Fortnite, it's all skins usually, or, like Overwatch, but, instead of loot boxes, I would just make it so that, you could just kind of purchase on a fixed price, instead of just opening random loot boxes and you don't even know the percent chances of it, which kind of feels like, microtransaction, but, companies just do what they do. I definitely play those games where like big whales spend thousands of dollars on the game, getting max gear, and they're like just stomping me in the game, and it just definitely does not feel good. I'm like definitely jealous. So I don't know. I definitely don't want like gameplay to be affected if people spend that much money, and then it makes me kind of like a turn off for me, and I just like quit. So it's kind of like a fine balance between the company. If they make it really grindy, lots of microtransactions, you overall destroy your reputation, and you lose the trust of the gamers, and you lose players and you lose revenue. So it kind of contradicts what you're trying to actually do by maximizing revenue, making the game too hard, and adding so much microtransaction that kind of makes your players not play and spend money and quit. So, it's like a fine balance. You don't want too much and you want too little. So, it's really hard to find that balance, and game designers, and, they have these meetings in the board. They talk about all the time. What a gamer will want is, pay one time and get all the content, you know? That would be the perfect scenario, you know? You don't pay too much, you don't pay too little, and you just pay something and you get all the content. You don't have to grind or anything, no DLCs, nothing, and that'd be perfect. You know, the ideal world at least. So nowadays, gamers want like better graphics and more innovative game where the game is, you know, feels new and different at the same time from the version 1 or something like that. You know, more content, more story, things like that. So, you know, a company has to kind of cater to that. But that also pushes up the cost of producing the game because, you know, you gotta hire more people, things like that. So, you know, it's a balance and you just gotta figure out, you know, what's the best line to draw through that. If you really want change, you want to hit the company where it hurts the most, and that's their wallets. So spend money on games that you think are doing well and don't spend money on games that are not doing so well. So, you know, if a company adds too many microtransactions or making it too grindy, too many loot boxes, try your absolute best to not spend money, because if you do, then, you know, it's going to give them more incentive to try and, you know, make it even more like that. But if you don't, then, you know, of course they're going to, you know, have these meetings and trust me, they do in the back end. They're like, what's not working, things like that. You know, they have bad reputation and it ruins like their PR and stuff like that. Or the company could just keep going the same path and ruin their reputation even more by, you know, creating games like that. They are pissing people off and, you know, risk going bankruptcy and, you know, dying out and closing their stores on everything. And, you know, survival of the fittest. So, yeah. You know, one thing you could do is support the indie games. You know, they're the ones that are kind of trying to create more innovative games. They haven't been fully corrupted by, you know, corporations, all that stuff yet. And they just want to produce a good game. A lot of them are very passionate. They just overall want to make a great game and fun and, you know, just, you know, do well overall. Well, that's all I want to talk about today. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button and share it. Also, comment down below and tell me what you think about microtransactions. And, you know, do you feel bad for the company, or you don't feel bad for the company, or maybe you understand why they do these kind of things and you still don't like it? You know, just comment down below and let me know. And the most important thing of all is click the subscribe button and hit the notifications for more videos like this, because I'll definitely be making more videos giving my insight on the gaming industry. Also, don't forget, join my Discord channel where we can be talking about the game and the game industries and, you know, what's new. Also, don't forget to check out my reaction video playlist where I also react to a game called Black Myth, Wukong, and the boss in that game throws poop on you as an attack. I don't know if it does damage, but it should. Or I don't know, maybe it does. But yeah, go ahead and check out that playlist.